But that's not the story I want to tell. Later that night, we had settled into our hotel in what appeared to be a seedy part of town. We were high off our recent experience and humbled that God had used us to deliver Bibles into a communist country. It had been a long trip, and we were very tired. That's when the phone rang. We answered, and a woman with a very kind and inviting voice said one word, "Massagey?" This happened many times every night, and we learned that this nice woman was offering to come up to our hotel room and give us personal massages. And no, not the professional chiropractic type. Throughout the trip, we saw women in the markets or on the street corners making themselves available, especially to American men who likely had money to spend. On the outside, some of them were incredibly beautiful, hair perfect and skin glistening. But what hangs in my memory was one woman I saw standing near the booth where I was shopping. I noticed her body and her clothes. Her intentions were clear. But then I noticed her eyes. I didn't just look at her eyes, I looked into her eyes. And she looked into mine. And for a couple of seconds that felt like minutes, our eyes were locked. And all I could see was a scared little girl, a girl who wanted to be loved, a girl who craved meaning and acceptance. Having daughters of my own, this stuck with me. Of course, you don't have to go to China to find women who make their living off the pleasures of men. The options are abundant. It used to be you'd have to go to a convenience store and buy a magazine to feed your pornographic addiction. Then in the 70s, you could actually bring a VHS tape home and watch Debbie Does Dallas in the privacy of your home. Beginning in the 80s and 90s, you didn't even have to be seen at a video store. It was available through cable TV. A few years later, you had access from the desktop computer sitting in your office. And today, it's available on every phone and device you carry with you every minute of the day. But really, nothing has changed. It still comes down to a choice we have to make every day, sometimes every minute. Will we act as though we are marked by love? What would change if we looked at the women on the screen as treasures in the eyes of Jesus? What would change if we loved these young ladies as though they were as precious to us as our own wives or daughters? How would we love them if they were our best friend's daughter? Do you ever wonder how Jesus would love a sexually attractive woman known to be loose with her body? You don't have to guess. There is a story in the Bible about that exact scenario. One day Jesus was eating in the home of a religious leader when a woman, quote, known to be a harlot, unquote, came in and began worshiping at his feet. Literally, she knelt down, poured expensive perfume on his feet, and began washing them. Some scholars say this perfume was worth a year's wages. Others say it was the most expensive perfume money could buy at the time. A quick Google search showed me that the most expensive perfume today is called Clive Christian No. 1 Imperial Majesty Perfume. It costs nearly $13,000 per ounce. It's likely not the type of perfume you would pour. You would probably just use a drop at a time. But this woman didn't dab it or just use a drop. She took the whole bottle and poured it on Jesus' feet. She was so caught up in the experience, she began crying and used her long hair to wipe her tears off his feet. This woman had spent time in the company of many men, but never to wash their feet. This was an incredibly intimate act, but not the kind she was used to. Simon, the dude who owned the home, was a bit put off by this interaction. He likely thought, what the heck? If Jesus were really a prophet, he wouldn't let that filthy woman touch him with a 10-foot pole. Simon's next thought should have been, oh crap, I forgot Jesus can read my mind. It would have been natural for Jesus to tell the woman to leave so that being so close to her would not harm his reputation. Or he could have chosen to rebuke her and condemn her lifestyle. It would have also been natural for him to land on Simon's back with both feet and give him a verbal beating about his intolerance and judgmental heart. Jesus did none of those things. Instead, he turned to Simon and told a very short story. 2 men were in debt to a banker. One owed 500 silver pieces, the other 50. Neither of them could pay up, and so the banker canceled both debts. Which of the 2 would be more grateful? It didn't seem complicated, and it didn't seem like a trick question. So Simon answered, I suppose the one who was forgiven the most. But Simon still didn't realize Jesus knew his thoughts, at least not until Jesus began giving him a lesson about love. That's right, said Jesus. Then turning to the woman, but speaking to Simon, he said, Do you see this woman? I came to your home. You provided no water for my feet, but she rained tears on my feet and dried them with her hair. You gave me no greeting, but from the time I arrived, she hasn't quit kissing my feet. You provided nothing for freshening up, but she has soothed my feet with perfume. Impressive, isn't it? She was forgiven many, many sins, and so she is very, very grateful. If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal.